If you are in a waiting season, or maybe you've just been in a really difficult season where you're struggling right now, I want to encourage you with David's story. You'll hear me talk about David a lot because it is one of my favorite stories. It's so encouraging, not only because David was in such a long waiting season, having given a word from the Lord probably around the age of 10, and then not having that promise fulfilled until he was 30 years old. His waiting season was filled with so many victories, but so much struggle. David's heart posture through all of it is what really encourages me, and that's what I wanted to focus on today. David was, like I said, 10 years old when he was anointed as king. At the time Saul was king, Saul was going a little crazy, and David ends up serving in Saul's court, defeating Goliath. Saul finds out that he is the one who is anointed to be king and then sets out to kill him. David spends many years not only in battle after battle, but also on the run for his life. He was in the wilderness. So when I say this, God's hand was over him. God was providing for him, but it was not glamorous surviving out in the wilderness. He didn't have a place that he just called a steady home that he could go back to because he was on the run, okay? God promised David through the battles and everything that the Lord would hand his enemies over to him. And there was several times that David had the opportunity to kill Saul. Saul was hunting him down, and he had opportunities to kill him, and he did not do it. Instead, he would take a piece of his robe, and he would then go before Saul and say, look, I had the opportunity to kill you, but I didn't, because you were also anointed by the Lord, and I'm not going to harm someone anointed by the Lord. And it was this heart posture of obedience, but the most important part being that David knew that the battle was not his, but the Lord's. David knew that all of his victories were not by his own strength, but by God's hands. I genuinely cannot imagine hearing a promise or a word from the Lord and then going into a season of waiting for 20 years. I mean, he was 10 years old. He was not even a man yet. And so he had a lot of maturing to do. So to hear from the Lord, it's like, especially at such a young age, I don't know how much patience I had at the age of 10. It just, oh my gosh, the ups and downs that he went through, the confusion that was probably going on in his head, yet he had his heart postured with so much faith and love in the Lord, and knowing who God is, knowing that he is a promise keeper. And I truly believe that that is what was David's hope the whole time, is that he never gave up his faith. He never turned away from the Lord. Instead, he continued on believing in the promise that God gave him with all of his heart, and realizing that the battles, the things that he was facing in this long waiting season were not his battle to face. And I think sometimes we take on these heavy burdens that are not ours to carry. God never intended for us to try and carry things or go into battle alone. And it's when we do go in alone and we are not seeking the Lord, when we are not allowing him to lead us, when our faith is in our own strength and not in his, is when we become more and more weary and tired and discouraged and hopeless, because we cannot win these battles without the Lord. We can do nothing apart from Jesus. That story encourages me because David understood that, and I want to have a heart posture like David. I want to have faith and knowledge and understanding who God is at all times like David did, because we are not promised a struggle-free life, but we are promised that God is right there with us and he has good plans for us. So as long as we keep our eyes on him, the battle is already won. So I pray that this encourages you. I know this was a long story, but the battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. So hand it over to the Lord and allow him to take control. Allow him to lead, and you will be triumphant.